Mr. Snell, would you do the invocation?
Yes. Rise, please. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, as we come to you today. Thank you for this beautiful fall day, Lord. It's wonderful to have the seasons, and the trees are beautiful, and we just thank you for everything. And Lord, be with us as we go through these procedures today. We have a lot of decisions to make. I pray for wisdom and strength for all of us. Just be with us, Lord, as we continue this process today. Thank you very much. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Snell. Roll call.
Meredith Fraley.
Here.
Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard. Julia Coates.
Here.
Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishenhop. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. John Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
China Gloria Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Stokes.
Here.
David Thornton.
Present.
Kara Cowan Watts. Honey, we do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. The next order of business is approval of the September 24 regular session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes stand approved as written. Reports. The first report is Ms. Wright, Marshal Service.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm standing in for Miss Wright. My name is Lieutenant Frankie Driftwater.
Nice for you to be here, Frankie.
Yes. I hope the Council has our copy of our reports. On first issue, she wants to report on Cherokee County some of the offenses here, and I'll go real briefly here. I know you have a lot of stuff on your items here today. We had our officers had worked with the county also on some vandalism reports, runaway, some hit and runs, theft, DUI and DUS, Highway 10. As you can see, we had 3 public intoxications and 2 juvenile runaways. Over in the section in Mays County, we had some warrant arrests there, as you can see. Possession of CDS, burglary, and burglary also around the areas of Cherokee Heights. We're trying to really work a lot with Cherokee Heights up there because, as you know, there in Mays County, that's kind of an isolated area, which a lot of our communities are out there. And I think with working with the cross-deputizations and other agencies out there, we could really help out some of those areas too. As you know, Halloween's coming up, and that's kind of our busiest season. So, Fort Gibson, we had none. Adair County, as you can see, we had burglary, 2, assault and battery, warrant arrest, domestic violence. Muskogee, there was none reported there. Sequoia County, sexual assault, physical abuse, HIPAA violations. Of course, that case was open and unfounded. And also, again, in Mays County, there was down there, Delaware County had attempted arson. And I believe that location was going to be at the Kenwood School. Unattended death. Rogers County, tracking CDS, and alongside working various disturbances such there at the casino. Craig County was none indicated. Also, some of the events, such as you can see here on the chart here, myself, Officer Timothy, we still do the drug education program and the gang resistance programs that we try to go out into a lot of our communities in some of our isolated areas also to address and work with these kids there in our communities, and that's just one of the many programs that we try to do. Also, various events. Council, if you would like, just keep us updated on some of the events that you may be having in your area so we can get this information out, because I know a lot of times our citizens out there do not know how to get a hold of us, and we do have that 866, or as you were, 800 number to contact us with our 24-hour dispatch. So any way we can help you with community events and such, please don't hesitate to call.
Frankie, what was that number again, the contact for citizens? What was the number that you
Okay,
gave?
it's going to be the 866 number, 456-9224.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions or comments from, yes?
I know Chuck 3 months about, and I know Chuck had asked last month about the tape of the flag incident at Will Rogers. Are they going to let us view it privately?
The tape at Will Rogers?
Mm-hmm. And it's been going on about 3 months.
3 months
I've not
now?
heard nothing.
Okay, I'll have to get with the investigations on that
If you,
today. Yeah.
well, it was Sharon that told us that she provided for us, and she had to get it.
And that was 3 months ago. Okay.
That's when we first started asking anyway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thanks for being here, Frankie.
Okay. And if you have any additional information you need me to look up or anything, just don't hesitate to email me. Basic Cherokee Nation email. All right.
Ms. Hammonds?
Good afternoon. I'm Mason Morton. I'm standing in for Ms. Hammond. She's in court this afternoon. We submitted a written report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And if I don't know the information, I can find it out for you.
Mr. Hoskin?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Attorney General wrote a letter to, I think, someone in the poultry industry. I forget we've all been copied on that letter. There's some folks concerned about the state of Oklahoma's litigation versus the poultry industry, Cherokee Nation's role in that. And one part of the Attorney General's letter indicated that prior to us essentially being drawn into the lawsuit, we had worked in the background to reach some sort of a resolution. That's what I read the letter to me. And I just wonder if, and this can wait till the next meeting, if she could detail what exactly she meant by that. I wasn't aware of any mediation efforts on the part of Cherokee Nation between the poultry industry and the state of Oklahoma, whether they're formal or informal. But if she could just report to us on that at a future meeting, perhaps next month, that would be appreciated.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskin. Anyone else? Thank you, Nathan.
Okay, thank you.
Nathan, you didn't have anything on GEG, did you? Sorry.
Nothing new to update from last month.
Okay, thanks. Anyone, Mr. Johnson from Election Commission?
I'm going to pass to our attorney. I think you have something to report on.
You're going to give it to an attorney? Goodness.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cole.
Two items for you to consider this afternoon. You have later in your agenda this revision of the election laws. We have met this morning and gone over revision number 4, red line version number 4, and I've got a handout in front of each of you. The only suggestion that we have, a recommendation for you, is that particular language is substituted for the one that's in this 4th version under Chapter 3, Paragraph 5. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have as to the reasons and the recommendation we have in that little handout. Other than that, we are comfortable with the legislation and have nothing else to add to it. But if you have any questions of us or any requests to make concerning it, we'll be more than happy to provide that information.
Anyone have any questions, comments?
Which one is he recommending? This one?
It's a single piece of handout
red
there.
line version, and then his is the one with that's marked up.
If you've got your version there, it's under Chapter 3. I don't know if anybody happens to have that with them.
Baker asked which version is Election Commission. You have a sort of a clean version, and then his is the marked up version. It has 45
Yes,
days.
that's
versus
correct.
180 days.
A couple of things. The one you had was registered mail. We'd just rather go to standard mail,
Okay.
the U.S. Post Office, and the 180 days is more than necessary. Move those down to 45 days. So you can see the changes we made, the recommendations we made.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hoskin?
The commission will be around
Yes.
for our further discussion. Thank
Yes,
you.
you will be around for this.
Yes,
Okay.
right. And secondly, and I guess more importantly, we have just this morning approved the apportionment that the court remanded to us in this litigation that's going on over the redistricting. So I'll be filing that report tomorrow and furnishing that as a matter of public record, as well as to the attorneys involved in that litigation. So we'll be making that report.
That is to say the commission developed a reapportionment that it is approved, or you have approved the reapportionment that the council passed?
Well, if you understand that the district court remanded it to the commission to do the apportionment,
Right.
we have done that. I understand the statute. That statute says to be approved by the council. I'm going to file it with the court and leave it in the hands of the district judge as to what dispositions to be made of it. So we've done that, and we've got that map, and we'll be filing that tomorrow with the court systems. And I'll provide Todd Henry his copy of it too. Any questions?
Nothing further.
Okay. Ms. Lori Jordan?
Mr. Cole, what did you all see your duty as in gaining the information for the apportionment? Was it to gain the numbers?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I heard you say something about a map.
Well, we generated a map based upon your 15 districts with those numbers that were generated by the...
Is that what's called for in the Constitution as a portion of the Election Commission's job?
Well, when you see my report, I allude to the constitutional provision as well as the statutory provision that places a responsibility on the commission. And
To divide it up into 15 districts?
no, that's not our responsibility.
Your responsibility is to get the numbers, right?
That's right, to make the apportionment of the 15 districts that you all have adopted in this current legislation, which is the subject of the lawsuit.
It's your interpretation of the Constitution then that you go past getting the numbers and create a map?
Well, no, we don't create the map. You all have created that map from the 15 districts that you laid out.
Is the 15 districts that you propose on your map the same as the 15 districts that's been approved by this council?
Yes, ma'am.
The boundary lines are the same?
Yes, ma'am. We just made the apportionment based upon those districts that you've set out.
So the map that you're filing with the court tomorrow is the same map cut up the same way as the 15 districts that have been approved by this body?
Well, I don't know what you mean by same, but they're similar. They're the same 15 districts. The numbers that we used was from May the 22nd when the judge remanded it at that time. Those numbers that you all had were back in November of 2007, I think. So we applied the apportionment that we understand we're responsible to do to the 15 district, because that's the issue. Is that constitutionally proper? In other words, that's what the court is being challenged to decide, is whether your new redistricting plan meets constitutional muster. And we just did the apportionment.
What is your deviation within those districts?
I'll have that for you tomorrow. That's reflected on the map that we've done for the apportionment.
And but can I ask, is your deviation consistent with the deviations that we had on our districts?
I don't know whether it's consistent, but it reflects the numbers that we got. There are disparities the same as yours.
Is there any reason why you can't share that with us today?
I haven't got it finalized. We just met an hour or so ago. I'll be filing it. I've got a document that I have to redraft, and I'll file it with the court tomorrow, and council will have it. I'll give a copy to anyone here that wants to be copied.
My concern is this: I can't find anywhere in the Constitution, nor in Judge Fite's ruling, that allows you, the election body, to come up with a map of any sort. What I see in the Constitution and what I see in his direction is you were to come up with what you believe the valid number of membership is within the inner boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. And I think once you give us that number, then this body takes that number and splits it up in what they feel is the most appropriate way and devises a map. And I'm somewhat concerned when you're talking about a map that you have a map to give to the court, which I think exceeds the constitutional duties of your body.
Well, you're ably represented at this time by counsel in that lawsuit, and you certainly, through your counsel, would have the right to raise that question and object to it if you want to.
But the apportionment is to be done by you and delivered to this body.
And it will be.
But not before it's delivered to the court.
Well, it would be at the same time. We think the remand, my understanding of the remand is that we've got to report back to the court.
But
Let the court know that we've done the apportionment.
There's not a deadline for you to report to the court, as I understand it.
Not a deadline.
So I think you could share that information with this body prior to any filing with the court.
Well, we'll do it simultaneously then.
And I assume then that we may have to take our lawsuit a step further because from what I'm hearing, I believe they've exceeded what the court asked them to do and certainly what the Constitution requires them to do.
And I respect your opinion, but there's a lot of things about this litigation that's a first impression in this judicial system. So whatever the judge tells us, I think that I'm responding to what the intention of the judge was for us to do our process, to make the apportionment and send it to the council for approval, and that's what we're going to be doing. But we'll also be filing with the court to let the court know that we have done what we were expected to do, which is to do that apportionment.
Well, if you file anything other than a total amount of numbers, I respectfully think you've exceeded your powers.
Well, and that may be the case, and I'm sure the judge will tell us if that is the case. But
well, that protracts the litigation, which adds up to more cost for everybody.
I suspect that protracting this litigation, no one's going to be happy with the way this is decided. So I suspect it'll wind up in the Supreme Court one way or the other. And the commission is only interested not in the outcome or the result of it. We're interested in the finality of it so that we can go about doing our business and hold an election and be prepared to meet whatever is decided by the litigants. So what I'm trying to say, I don't think we have a dog in this fight. So we're as more interested than anyone in trying to get it at finality. But I don't see that happening in the near future.
Mr. Hoskin and then Ms. Calm-Watts.
Other than to say that I agree with the concerns raised by Councilman Gloria Jordan, I have just one question, and that is, are you saying that but for the court's remand, there would be no legal obligation for you to construct and produce a map?
That was on my understanding of the judge's order. Remanded it to the Cherokee Nation Election Commission to do its statutory apportionment.
So you think your statutory duty is to produce a map?
Yeah, and I'm making that report. If it's improper,
so with that regard to whether there's a court remand, in the normal course of things, you believe your duty is to produce a map under the statute?
Exactly.
Thank you, Minister.
Yes.
With the 15 districts that you all have set out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoskin. Ms. Calm-Watts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I'm sorry this is not going to be addressed to you, but to my fellow Cherokees that sit on the Election Commission, I think we share the urgency of the upcoming election. I understand you have hired a lawyer here who you must, I guess, take the legal advice of, but we could hire lawyers all day long and get tied up in court and miss the opportunity to have a election that the constituents need to be prepared for in a timely manner. So I'm not a lawyer. None of you on the Election Commission are lawyers. I'm begging you that we try to get things in place for our Cherokee people to digest a new districts, whatever those end up being, before that election, and it's upon us already. I would have thought we would have come to some compromise already or something without tying up the legal bills that seem to be appearing in front of the court for good reason or bad reason, I'm not sure. So please, let's continue to move forward. I understood the court opinion to read that you guys would recommend to us a redistricting and we would ratify that redistricting and then we would be done. That's not what I heard here. That's fine if that's not the case, if it's just purely done by the Election Commission. The deal is 15 separate districts is what the Constitution calls for in my mind. Let's get it done, let's get it out on the table, and let's get our constituents familiar with what those districts are so we can begin an election process for 2011. Thank you.
Ms. Baker.
Yeah, Mr. Cole, I'm more confused than ever. I mean, if you're going to apportion, I mean, today we're under 9 districts. We're not under 15. That's what the lawsuit was all about to start with.
Well,
and if you're going to apportion, you should have apportioned the 9 districts the way we're operating and sitting right this day. And because you're talking about 15 districts that didn't need reapportionment because they were drawn. I mean, you could state the numbers, and we did that because we chose a time certain as to what day registration was, and then we divided it up. But apportionment is not redistricting. Apportionment is saying that this seat, as it exists today, gets 2 or 3 seats or 2 or 3 councilmen, and you know, we're mixing apples and oranges here. And so I'm really more confused now than I was before we heard about this new map that takes the 15 districts that has not been ratified, and that's the whole basis of this lawsuit is either the 15 or not. And so we're living under 9 districts right now, and I would think while we're living under 9 that the apportionment should be the 9 districts, not the 15 districts.
Well, let me make this observation.
Please.
The only agency that has the right to district or redistrict is the tribal council.
Correct.
Okay. You did that. Chief executives, the chief decided that wasn't fair, and he vetoed it. He overran that veto. So the law today is that these 15 districts that already exist, you've adopted that. That's legislation that's been passed. It's being challenged in court, however, as to whether or not it meets constitutional muster. So now that, and the precedent is that the judiciary does have a right, when challenged, to review your redistricting. And so it's before the court system now to determine whether or not it meets the constitutional muster that's provided in the Constitution. So that's the law that we have now, not the 9 anymore, the 15. And we're simply running the numbers based upon what we would have done had we associated with you or done that beforehand. If you remember, one of the objections to this process was that you did not involve the commission in the apportionment process, and your statute clearly said that it was to be a process of it, part of that process. And so the judge decided that it was going to be remanded back to the commission to do that process. And the statute says that once we do it, it's sent to you again for your approval.
But the commission decided to do it in real time rather than that point in time that we said, so numbers don't float on us, we're going to choose this time of day.
Well, we're going to choose the total number of registrations on the 22nd day of May 2009 when the court remanded it to us.
Okay.
And that won't be a large difference. I think yours was November of 2007, so I don't think there'd be that great a difference between those numbers. I think yours was 107, maybe ours was 109, something like that. So there won't be a big substantial difference in as far as total citizens are concerned. Now, does that answer your question?
It feel confused, but that's okay.
Well, if you see some of the papers that's being filed by the lawyers, there's a lot of us confused about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we'll take 2 more minutes on this if there are any more questions, Ms. Lori Jordan.
Well, if you take his analogy a step further, are you saying that you just took the 15 districts as they existed after we approved them, and you've now put what you believe the number of membership in each district is, and you have not changed the district lines?
That's right.
So, for example, example, Miss Fishing Hawk, what was the district that, are you north or south? South of Adair County, South Adair County. So when we get this map, she's still going to be South Adair County, and it's going to have a number there of what the membership is.
We're not moving anybody.
The lines have not moved for South Adair County.
Right. And that'd be up to the court to decide whether or not those lines stay or don't stay. That's the whole thing of the litigation, is whether or not the redistricting that you've done is constitutionally acceptable.
Well, I hope then that I have just misunderstood you, that when we get that map that you all have generated, you've got 15 districts, but they're the same 15 districts that this body has approved.
Yeah.
And inside those districts, like South Adair County, we might have said there was 6,000 people, and you might say there's 6,200 people. That's what you're telling us,
That's what
this
I'm
body
telling
that
you.
you've done?
Yeah.
Okay.
One more question. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Mr. Cole, anything else?
Not a thing. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, Ms. Wexton, Tax Commission. Afternoon, Sharon.
Hi, how are you? Afternoon. I think you have my report in front of you. I'll try to answer any questions. I will just make one correction on here. I had put that the J office we're looking at November, and due to getting some materials and different things like that, we're looking at probably 1st of January. I'm trying to be optimistic, 1st of January most likely, but it's not going to be ready in November. I went up this morning and looked at the building and parking lot work that's got to be done and things, so it's probably going to be 1st of January on the J office.
Is your
How about
sale?
Christmas?
Huh?
How about Christmas?
How about Christmas? Well, we can shoot for it, but I was giving myself a little extra week or so there because of the holidays in November and December.
Mr. Buzzard?
Sharon, is it your intention to get the parking lot built before you actually open the...
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sharon. Ms. Hanby, Self-Governance. Oh.
I apologize. Vicki wasn't able to make it today, so I'll be in her place. And you have her written report in your book, so I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. The only thing I have to add is that the Interior Appropriations, which is where Indian Health Service funds and Bureau of Indian Affairs funds come from, they had a conference on appropriations for 2010, and there's substantial increases for contract support costs, which is something the Speaker has worked on with us. So that's very good news, and we have large shortfalls, so the nation could expect a sizable amount of that new money. So congrats to everyone that has worked on that.
Questions, comments? Night? That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hummingbird, Gaming Commission.
Yo.
You did a very good job there with Mr. Eckerhoff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I won't say it. Go ahead.
Can I have a copy of this recording so I can play that next time I go up for evaluation? I don't know if my report made it into you guys this month. It didn't make it in. I brought a copy of my monthly report that I provide to the Gaming Commission. I'll leave it here and have someone provide copies to you a little bit later. Some of the highlights are the Secretary of the Interior has nominated a Chickasaw tribal member to be a associate commissioner for the NIGC. Her name is Stephanie Cochran. She is primarily been working out in New Mexico, working with a number of tribes out there, as well as the state government as the Indian liaison. So her nomination went out for public comment on September 15th, I believe it was, and the comment period is going to be closing at the end of this month on her nomination. Rumor has it that there are 2 or 3 individuals circulating around the Hill this week that are going up for consideration for the NIGC chair. No indication as to if there are any front runners on that. 2 of those names are friends of mine, so I'm hoping to find out a little bit more from them a little bit later on this week. But other than that, really no news, no major happenings going on at the gaming facilities right now. We are nearing 3,500 licensees. We have 65% of our floor is compact games. We're running about 5,300 machines, and all of this information is going to be in the summarized report here. But if there are any other specific questions, I'll be glad to entertain.
Jamie, I'm sorry, go ahead. You might give just a very brief make a very brief comment on serving on the panel in the ECOHOC conference last week.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to sit on a panel with George Scabine, who is the acting chairman for the National Indian Gaming Commission, and the purpose of the panel was to discuss some of the pending gaming issues that are happening both at in the NIGC and some on the outside of the NIGC on the national scale. Part of I would say the main focus of the discussion for that panel was to find out from Mr. Scabine exactly what his approach was going to be and what were some of the issues that he is planning on tackling while he's going to serve as chair. And it looks like right now that he will be serving in that capacity anywhere from 6 to 8 months. If they do find somebody this week or in the very near future to fill that chairmanship slot as a permanent assignment, it'll still be probably well into next year before that person's able to be presented to the Senate and confirmed. However, it was refreshing to hear that there are a number of issues, a number of internal control publications, some rule modifications that have been hanging out there with the NIGC for about 6 to 8 months that he is now going to retract and take another look at, simply because his philosophy is not necessarily getting regulation out there for the purposes of regulation. It doesn't make sense. Does it fulfill our goals and objectives? Is it good for the agency? Is it good for tribes? Which is something that we've been wanting to hear for a long time. So that, and also taking look at land into trust issues, taking a good hard look at their NIGC's consultation policy, which has been in need of some reworking for a number of years now. So if he is able to accomplish at least 2 or 3 things while he's in there, I hope it is 2 of those that I mentioned. And I've worked with George on a couple of other occasions. He used to be the head of the gaming office within the BIA, so I know of him, and I've worked with him a couple of times, and he seems to be a very upfront person. It doesn't seem to be one that would tell you one thing and do another. He seems to be very, very professional. So I'm looking forward to working with him. I talked with him a little bit on the side after we got off the panel. Gave him my contact information, told him if there's anything I can do, I'll be glad to help. Not only in the capacity here, but on the national scale. Since I chair the National Tribal Gaming Commissioners Association, we have the ability to reach out to a number of other tribes and provide feedback on any initiative that he might want to pursue. So, but it was a very good ability to sit down and sit to address Mr. Ecclehott.
Important issues. Thank you, Jamie. Ms. Fishing-Hawk?
Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
There was an incident with some shower doors over at the hotel.
Right.
That was reported to you.
Yeah.
Can you talk to some of that some? And I've got another request. When different incidents come up and happen, usually CNE has Gino Live, like send them to us by email, and we get told the generator goes off, there's a high wind, power kickers, but for some reason this one didn't reach us.
Okay. Yeah, we received a notice. I think it was. There was actually 2 incidents that we became aware of. The first one we were not aware of. The very first incident we were not aware of, but the second incident got reported to us, and it happens to be with a couple of shower doors. The installation of the shower doors was faulty, and a patron had, and the shower doors, for illustration, I guess, was the sliding glass doors on the shower. One patron had an occasion where the door slipped off the track and fell and cracked. And then we had another patron that had accidentally pushed on the door and it came off and cracked and cut her hand. And that patron was actually, I guess, the daughter of a patron. I think she was a teenager, a 12 or 14-year-old girl. They were able to take care of her wounds and address those. Immediately after that second incident, all shower doors were removed. They were replaced with vinyl shower curtains until they were able to identify the problem. They called in Flint Cone. They called in the company that did the installation of the shower doors and tried to isolate the problem. They found that some of the parts that they used were not installed correctly. So all of the shower doors will be refurbished and replaced with new shower doors. I don't have an ETA on that, but I can find out and get back with you.
Okay. I realize that the parts they didn't do the installation work right or whatever. Now back to the glass shattering.
Mm-hmm.
Have they found anything about the tempered glass yet?
Not to my knowledge, but I will find out for you.
Thank you, Ms. Fishcock. Any other? Thank you, Jamie.
All right, thank you very much.
Todd is out of state today, so Melanie, or someone that's working with Todd on codification? Any of you have anything to say? Oh, Mason?
I can do a quick one. I'm working with Mr. Hembry to see about what it would cost for the book form, and I've contacted 2 or 3 publishing companies, and we'll get more specific information on how many copies, what type of printing, and so you can get more than one bid on what it would cost, including what type of material you want, as well as how many copies you want.
Okay, great. Any questions for Mr. Morton? Thanks, Mason.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask
Jody?
him to get back at this one something? It was about your earlier report. Could you please have Diane let us know where all the lawsuits on ICI stand right now? That's it. Thank you.
Yes.
Item 9 is Cherokee Nation Education Corporation. Shelley Butler Allen.
I just have one question.
Jill. I'm sorry, Shelley. Hold on one second. Who had a question?
For Mr. Morton.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nathan, I didn't hear him either. I'm sorry.
Mr. Morton, did you just say that you needed to know how many copies needed to be ordered of the...
Well, I had it was the type of material, whether it's going to be a hardbound or they make a softbound, and the prices range. And so the 3 companies that I think I've contacted, Westlaw, one other company out of Texas that does the criminal desk book, the softbound, the large version. I can't remember their name at the moment, but I'll get that for you. But I contacted them as well, and I think LexisNexis.
Are you doing a summary version without annotated, like we do for, say, Oklahoma statutes? The desktop?
I do not know. I was getting all the possible ways you could do it, but I'm assuming this body decides what it's going to look like based on whether it's a 2-volume, like the last one is a 2-volume, or a large 1-volume soft, the format, how it looks.
So you'll have all that information next month?
I'm getting it, but I think the numbers you want and the type you want, I can bring some demonstrations of what some of them look like, because the hardbound pretty much looks like that on Westlaw, and the softbound are lighter, probably less expensive, but sometimes you want the ones where they sit on the shelves and say, these are the laws. So that's all personal choice. As far as functionality, anything's easy to work
Would
with.
you bring us samples next month?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Nathan?
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you all again. You have my report before you, and before I entertain questions, I'd like to thank at-large council members Julie Coates, Dr. Coates, as well as Jack Baker, for their generous contribution to the at-large scholarships that flow through Cherokee Nation Education Corporation. Thank you so much.
So, any other comments or questions? Ms. Coates?
Madam Chair, I would like to move that the report of the Cherokee Nation Education Corporation be moved to the Executive and Finance Committee as for their monthly report. That we feel it's more appropriate that it be reported there, since this is one of the corporations of the Cherokee Nation, and that there are financial resources of increasing significance moving through it.
Mr. Garvin seconded. Any further discussion? Pardon? Quarterly report, is that correct?
I did. Pardon me?
Did you say quarterly report?
Quarterly, yes.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor of moving Cherokee Nation Education Corporation to Executive Finance, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. You opposing, Jack?
No.
Any other requests or comments?
No, that's great.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
Okay, next order of business is old business, and it's an act amending the Cherokee Nation election code. That's item 1 in your book here. I spoke with Todd earlier, and I think the only things we have to discuss and analyze are these first 2 pages here under number 1 tab. The rest has been approved, right? Oh, and the at-large version that was handed out by the Election Commission. 22A, ongoing process. Who submitted these? Was that you, Kara? Did you want to?
Madam Chair, if you would like, I'd be happy to.
Sure, go ahead.
So the first one, and maybe, Madam Chair, is this item the 21C2? That would be the first thing we should actually consider that accidentally were left off. So Don Garvin's amendment for that at-large voter registration. I would move that we submit the 180-day version that Don Garvin submitted.
I'm good at 45 days, that's fine.
I'm not, because I think that's what got us in. I'd like to make the motion and then there be a second and then we could debate, I guess.
What's your motion?
My motion is to push forward the amendment as Don Garvin pushed forward with the 180 days.
Second.
And registered mail.
Okay, moved and seconded. Now discussion. Mr. Garvin?
I would be satisfied with just regular mail and 45 days in both places. So I'll make that a friendly amendment.
Can we look at each one individually?
He wanted to...
I want to accept.
Okay.
Now, if we want to make an motion to look at them each separately, I think it would be worth the body's time personally to look at each separately, both the time frame and then separately whether it's registered or regular mail.
Separately is fine.
Mr. Garvin?
Separately would be fine too.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
I make a motion that we change the 180 day to 45 days.
Second.
Moved and second. We have a motion on the floor on the 180 days. So we need to act on that one first.
Discussion?
Yes.
Discussion?
Yes, we're in discussion. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I understand this, that those current at-large people that are in a district that, say, has been split, that we would give them 45 days to tell us which part of this area they want to be in. For example, I'll use Adair County again. I think it's been split down the middle, north and south. They will notify the at-large ones that signed up last time per the constitutional requirement, and they have 45 days to elect either to be in the North New District or the South New District. Is that what we're talking about with this amendment? No more, no less. And then we're going to deal with the registered mail next.
Are you directing your question to Mr. Baker?
If that would be, I was just trying to make
Mr.
sure
Baker,
that...
do you want to respond?
Yes, well, first I'd like to respond to your statement. My motion is to amend her motion to change it from 180 days to 45 days.
All right. Did we have a second on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now we're in discussion. All right.
And yes, and I agree. That's my understanding.
Okay. Anything else? Are you finished? Mr. Hoskins?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Councilman Baker, would you entertain a friendly amendment to change 45 to 90? I think 45 is not enough. 180 might be excessive, so could we move a little more towards affording them more opportunity? And we could negotiate all day, but I would suggest at least 90.
Mr. Baker and Mr. Hoskin, could I interrupt and ask Mr. Cole their reasoning for the 45 days?
Mr. Cole isn't here, but I think I can speak for him and the rest of the commission.
Would you come forward? Bill John doesn't hear well.
One of the commissioners, Mark Calico, probably has more experience with this than myself and probably anyone in this room. And it was her recommendation that we change this to 45 days. And
unless you would object, I think it could be negotiable probably to 90 days. And the registered mail, the reasoning behind that was just strictly a matter of cost. It isn't necessarily necessary to do it, and it would be very costly to do this.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions in regard to his statements there? Mr. Hoskins?
I just am awaiting Councilman Baker's response.
Ms. Callen-Watt?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Karen, just a second.
Okay.
Actually, I would prefer a shorter time period, such as 60 days, rather than 90. So I will not accept 90.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, Ms. Callen-Watt, and then Dr. Cobb, and then Ms. Fishing-Hawk.
I totally understand the need not to go to registered mail, so I'll be supporting the other later action. But we got into the problems we're in because we gave them too short of a time frame. I would rather err on let's act now and give them 6 months to respond, because it's inevitable in our community. It takes them 2 or 3 months to get it and then 2 or 3 months to respond. And we should afford them that opportunity to exercise their right to vote in the district that they choose, because it's such a fundamental change from how we had done things before, even though they chose to adopt the Constitution. Thank you.
Dr. Cobb?
Councilor Anglin and myself have said this on several occasions in this committee. I still get people at community meetings that will tell you that they live outside the district. We all know what form was sent before the last election. We know the time frame.
Just 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson, you can sit down if you want to.
And we all know what time frame there was, and it was not a long time frame. And there are still people in our district that are upset about that to this day. If the votes are not there for 180, and I don't want to put, and you're more than welcome to yield some time to you, Councilor Hoskin. My guess is that 90-day time period is coming from some of the same complaints that you're getting in your district because you live up on the border. I would highly request that you consider at least 90 days. I don't think 60 is enough. If you don't want to go with 180, I would really consider 90. If you go ahead, Councilor Hoskin, I'll yield to you.
Well, and in that regard, I mean, what is, I can see we're not at the registered mail, I can see the financial burden of registered mail, but what is the burden of this period of days? I know you have to cut it off at some point. Given what happened last time, it seems to me we should be very cautious. To me, 90 days is a fair period of time, and that's not the amendment. But so I would be against Councilman Jack Baker's amendment of 45. And I yield back to Councilman.
I have no more.
Madam Chairman.
Yes. Ms. Fishing-Hawk?
Jack wants you to respond, I think.
Are you yielding to
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Mr. Hoskins?
I will yield.
Okay. Or you're not?
I will reconsider and accept his 90 days.
As will I.
Okay, we're at 90 days versus 45 or 180 or a year or whatever. So we're at 90 days. Okay, now Ms. Fishing-Hawk.
I was just going to see if Martha was here to address this. I was going to see if Martha was here, because he mentioned Martha knowing more about it. I was just trying to find Martha. See if
Is she here?
Yes.
You want to come forward, Martha?
I didn't see her. Can you address your reasoning behind the 45 days?
We are only talking about people that are registered at large now. Not a lot of people. Only those that are at large now. So think about your districts. What we're afraid of is that we're not going to have time to get everything done by the 2011 election if we don't speed it up. We think 45 days is adequate time for those that are at-large registered voters.
Do you have any statistics, because I've seen them, I don't recall them, on sending stuff out in the mail for voting, and if they don't reply in the first 2 weeks, or I think it was really the first 20 days, chances are they're not going to reply?
It was 21 days, I think.
Okay.
And if you give them a long length of time, they will have lost that form before they fill it out and get it back to us.
I'm running that a lot. And they just really not interested.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hoskin, did you have any questions?
No, I withdraw, thank you.
Ms. Lori Jordan?
Ms. Calico, these folks that you're planning on sending this notice out to, they signed up just prior to the last election, is that right?
Correct.
So you have good addresses on all of those folks?
Well, we think so.
Okay.
Much better than some of the others.
And I'm just making an observation for myself, but you're entirely correct. If I have 180 days or if I have 90 days, I'll wait till the 89th day or the 179th day. So the quicker that they're told to get these back, the more likely they are to send them back. Because after a week at my house, you lose whatever you put up. And I would venture a guess that's what happens in 90% of the households. Maybe the rest of you's a bit more organized than I am, but I liked the shorter period just simply because they would get it, they would do it, they'd get it back, we'd be done with it.
We discussed it this morning just a little bit, and what we had planned on is when the number of days is set, that a letter go to these people with a return envelope back to us saying, these are the new rules, this is what's happened, you may need to choose, you're registered in this county or this area, whatever. And we're hopeful that they're going to come back.
You might even put a stamp on them.
Yes, and we do that when we enclose an envelope. It's stamped back to us. So that's our thinking.
Mr. Thornton?
Ms. Calico, I realize that after every election and before the next coming election, you all of us have lists and you send them out. And there's so many of these people move, it's unbelievable.
Oh, correct.
And so, my main question is, if they don't answer you in 45 days or 90 days or 180 days, are they off the list?
No, sir. We're going to try to contact them, not just the at-large, but we're going to try to contact everybody because it does affect what area they're going to be in. South Adair County they're talking about.
I realize.
We're going to have to contact them. Do you live north or south? Highway 51. So see everybody, either by phone, by mail, something. But see, this is just talking about the at-large.
Well, that's what I'm asking, the at-large. If they don't respond within 45 days, what's going to happen to them?
We just do the best we can. If we
Do
can't
they still
locate
get to
them,
vote?
they'll still be on the list. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Just not an active address or anything, but they're still on our list. Correct.
Okay, any other questions? Thanks, Martha.
Yep.
Comments? Okay, we have the motion is to approve this with regular mail and 90 days. Oh, is that clear?
Right now, we're only voting on the 90 days.
Oh, I thought we were voting on the whole thing. Okay, 90 days. Trying to get it over with, Jack. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Two, did you get those two? Janelle.
Joe and
Janelle. Okay, now, Mr. Baker, you want to bring your registered or certified or regular
I
mail?
didn't say anything about that. My motion was only the days.
I'm sorry?
No, I did not
Oh,
make a
okay.
motion.
Ms. Lori Jordan?
I make a motion that we do it by regular mail because their addresses are pretty well known by the election office and save a lot of money.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Ms. Count Watts,
Call for question.
question has been called.
On the whole motion now, because we amended it, right?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you for your
Okay, now we're on 22A, right?
Yes.
All right.
You're doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So this one on 22A is reference to the ongoing process, and it's the added question of the Election Service Office shall publish in the Cherokee Phoenix information promoting voter registration at least 4 times annually. So this is something this is the only way I could think of positively addressing our shared ongoing concerns about voter registration and some of the lack of voter registration without politicizing it, because then the independent body does that. It could come back with a budget utilizing tools being our tribal papers. So I move to approve the additional sentence.
We have a second.
Second.
Moved and second. Now discussion. Ms. Count-Watch, is there any reason why you said Cherokee Phoenix, is there any reason why you wouldn't want this published on the web?
No, that would be great. If that's a friendly amendment, add it to our website, that would be awesome, to compel the use of the website.
Yeah.
Yes, so it would be, and logistically, Hembry has called, and I told him if he had any problems calling in, so he must be trying to call in and he can't get through. Todd Hembry, the counselor, or the attorney, excuse me.
Isn't it on? I think he's already there.
He said, I told him if he got dropped or something and needed
there's our
something.
IT man.
Oh.
Big deal.
So, yeah, I would welcome that as a friendly amendment, and Buell, you seconded, is that okay?
Yes.
So he would accept the addition of, and the Cherokee Nation websites.
Trying to find out what the problem is.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor?
I had discussion.
Oh, okay, please.
My question is, and I guess it's for the election commission, is there a cost, and do you have this in your budget to pay for that cost?
I'm not sure I know how to answer that. I don't have the same paper that she has in front of her, and I thought that I have it within this, but I'm not sure. Maybe Martha has kept up with it more than I have, but I have how to answer it.
Could we have Ms. Calico come up then?
It is not in the budget.
Okay. So if there's a cost, how are we going to get it paid for? Because the Cherokee Phoenix is an independent publication, and I assume this is going to be considered an ad of some sort. We didn't provide for that in their ongoing budget. It would be a little bit of a concern to me how it gets paid. I don't know, maybe Julia. I'll defer. Julia, I think you've got a comment.
I'll just share my experience from placing ads for the Cherokee history course over a number of years, is that the Phoenix has treated it as a public service announcement, and I think they would undoubtedly do this for this also. Realize I'm sort of speaking for them a little bit here, which is perhaps not appropriate, but I feel pretty confident that this would be the case, and the rate is not extreme.
I just want to make sure that we don't give them an unfunded mandate. I believe that's what you call it. When you tell somebody to do something and they don't have any money to do it.
Okay, Ms. Fishing Hawk?
I'm not against this. I think it'd be a great deal. I have trouble, I guess, we're not telling an independent board what to do, right? We're suggesting it?
No, we're saying should.
Okay. What? Shall. Oh, it says shall. Okay. And if it does cost us, I have a slight problem with it due to how many newspapers we get returned. And I know it needs to be done, and I'm more than willing to pay it. But unless that Phoenix starts cleaning up its list, I'm going to bring all the papers in here and stack them up that my district alone throws in the trash every month. Make a point. I don't believe in throwing money in the trash. That's what we're doing. That's all I have to say, Mary.
He's trying to get Todd. This is not working.
No, we're not getting enough dials on our phone.
Okay, Ms. Calmont?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I believe if I recall correctly from the budget, is that they have unexpended funds every year. So even if it was up to $500, which from what I remember from the rates in the Cherokee Phoenix, even if they paid for it, it would be very minimal. This body has repeatedly, for the 6 years, 7 years I've served on it, asked for more work to be done in this area, and it still ends up being politicos doing the work in this area and not the government. And if the elected officials do the work, then it does become politicized instead of the election commission, who, we haven't, this election commission, it doesn't speak to them because we haven't given them that opportunity. But past election commissions, suggestions seem to fall on deaf ears. So I believe that we have to compel them to do a minimum standard of outreach through this law, and that's why I'm advocating for it. Thank you. And I think it's reasonable. It's not an undue financial burden.
Hey, Tom? You have our item number 4586. That's 4586.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay, item 23D is maintenance. Ms. Watts, did you bring that forward?
Yes, and it's to change it to 5 years. And from the time of the December 31st of the year the election occurred. And the reason 5 years is if there is any kind of issues around the election, if they haven't been compelled to maintain that list, then how are we going to go back and research whether something really happened or not? And there wasn't anything to legally compel them to hold that, not evidence, but just the documentation if there were questions around election. I think this would strengthen the integrity of our election process. So I move to approve.
That is moved in second. Discussion. Ms. Calco, I'll ask you a question if you don't mind answering. Where are you?
I'm here.
Ms. Calco, it's 5 years. Is that reasonable? And okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 24. This is deceased, relinquished, and disenrolled persons.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So this needs to be done at least on an annual basis so that, the integrity of the election is not in question. It helps clean everything up, make sure that our databases are working properly together. And I just think it would strengthen the integrity of the election to know that this was being done each year and not be a big problem right before an election, especially since we've changed with election processes now every 2 years. So I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Now discussion. Mr. Baker?
Yes, I don't see a necessity for this because it says this should be done on no less than an annual basis is the amendment. But the actual regulation says that they shall be disenrolled upon receipt of satisfactory evidence. So that tells the registration committee to do it immediately. And I think that's when it should be done rather than letting them stack up till the end of the year.
Ms. Calmont, you want
Thank you. So the wording of my amendment doesn't preclude them from doing it as it happens, but I'm not clear that it's even happening at all right now unless the Election Commission actively goes to seek that information out. And the problem is even if the policy and the process is already there and it is happening, there's a perception in the public that it may not be. And so we should, for not just the integrity of this administration and this council's term, but for all future, ensure that it happens at this minimum. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Mr. Thornton?
As far as the election commission is concerned, I'd like to know what kind of cost it would be to seek this information out.
Well, I think this whole paragraph 24 has to do with the election service, not the election commission.
Are you talking about the registration service? Or?
What's that?
Are you talking about registration, or are you talking about election registration?
Well, it's talking about the election service office and not the commission office. So this is something that the election registration office handles and not the commission office.
Well, isn't the board or the commission over that office?
Well, I don't know what the pecking order is there, but they're the ones that would come up with the list of those people that would be removed from the enrollment, wouldn't they?
I think it needs to be clear that this commission is over the election office, as far as I know.
Mr. Thornton,
Let me, Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Chairperson?
Yes.
Yes. Just to be clear, that under this act, the election commission does have authority and control over the election service office.
Okay.
It looks like to me you'd have to contact each individual personally or their family to find out if there's a deceased in the family. And doing that is going to cost you quite a bit of funding. Looks like, because 9 times out of 10, these people aren't going to contact you in the family.
Yeah, but don't they contact, and isn't this record kept by the registration department?
No. I can go over there right now and guarantee you I can pick out people that are deceased that's on that record. That's been deceased for a long time. But
Well,
there's not people that go in there and say, hey, I lost my dad, I need to take him off the voters. No, they just don't do that. And if you contact these families, it's going to be fairly expensive to do that back and forth, I think.
Well, let me ask you, how has it been done in the past? How does the commission how does council understand that it's been done in the past?
Madam Chairman, may I make a statement?
Mr. Embry, I had someone talking to me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, please do. Mr. Embry?
Yes.
You have the floor.
This highlights the need for great communication between the registration department and the election service office. The people who would have who would be best to have this information is the registration department, and I believe that this amendment would require that at least on an annual basis that it be done. I do agree with Mr. Baker in his statement that obviously it should be done upon notice, but you would only know notice if you had good communication between the registration department and the election service office. So it would be incumbent on the election of those two departments to interchange good communication and at least have access to each other's database.
Well, I understand that we would depend upon our information coming from the registration department, and I assume that was something that we could just do on an annual basis. And I believe, Ms. Watts, that's what you're asking for here. Minimum of 1 year. And for sure, we don't object to doing that. But I don't think it's something that the election commission goes out and seeks from the general public. We just seek this information from registration.
Well, I can understand the commission not doing the work, but I can't understand the election itself over there, the registration over there of not doing that work. But I don't think there's a proper procedure set up to contact these families.
Well, I don't think there ever has been, has there?
It's always been that the family contacted the registration, election registration, and they're not doing it.
Is that the responsibility of the election commission to see that is done?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Something needs to be, put in there where, and I don't know how you would do it. I just don't know how you would do it.
Yes, I just had one comment. I'm sorry. On this one, how it reads, it looks like you get the information from the registration department with two categories: satisfactory evidence of death or disenrollment. Do you also want them to be able to, if the family does bring you a certificate of death, that the election commission could do that without consulting registration, or is it simply from registration?
It's registration.
I can check and see. I don't know if that is a normal function of the registration department. I don't know that, but the family does come to them with the death certificate. Do you know what triggers that event?
They won't. Doesn't necessarily get triggered.
Well, why would you go to registration and say, here, what purpose would you go to do that?
Mr. Baker?
Yes. Having been on the registration committee, people, as has been said, people do not notify registration of deaths, and that's a major problem that we have. But this only addresses that if the registration department receives notice, and they're to give notice to the election commission or the election office.
And then once a year, we make sure that has happened.
Well, actually, it should be done immediately according to the legislation.
Well, but the way this reads, it, we should.
That's what I say it's contradictory, because it says it's to be done upon receipt of the evidence you're to do it.
That's their receipt, not the
Yes.
registrations, though. That's.
No, the registration does notify the election office whenever they receive this. That is the standard procedure.
So, is there a recommendation that you might have, Mr. Baker?
No. No, there isn't, because it's a major problem of people being notifying registration of this.
Ms. Gloria Jordan?
Is this section broke? I mean, does it need to be fixed?
It's not broke that I'm aware of.
What about the rest of the commission? I mean, I didn't realize there was yes, we do have some deceased people still on the list, but I think it's out of an abundance of caution. And you should know your districts well enough that you know who's deceased and who didn't. I mean, maybe we're getting to the point where we don't know our membership. I don't see why we even need. It says this shall be done no less than an annual basis, so somebody's going to have to become proactive, and I don't know whether you're budgeted for that. With membership, which I understand is somewhat behind on issuing cards, I don't know whether they're budgeted for that. We just keep adding these things on to departments, and we're not making any adjustments to budgets to accommodate what we're ordering them to do. And I'm just making comments because I don't know yet. I haven't decided whether I'm for or against this. But I'm just throwing these things out for thought. If it's working, why are we just changing these? Just to be changing them? Yeah. And I sure would defer to Mr. Baker across the aisle here, because I think he's probably more knowledgeable about this area. But if you have other comments, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Baker, she's yielding to
Okay.
you.
Well, my only comment is that this should be done no less than on an annual basis. It's not necessary because it already says it's to be done immediately. So that's my only comment on that.
Ms. Gloria Jordan, that's all you have?
That's all.
Mr. Baker? B.J. Baker?
Yeah. Martha, help me with this minute. There was a time 4 years ago or so when it was broke. When if we brought in somebody that was deceased, you had no authority over there to take them off the voters list.
That's correct.
And did we not fix that?
Yes, registration, they took that information, tribal registration, they took them off, they notify us, and they still notify us monthly.
Okay, but if somebody shows up with the documentation, you can take them off.
We take a copy of it, but we send it to registration.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it gets done both places.
Yes, sir.
Like I say, it was broke 4 or 5 years ago, but when we found out that you couldn't even, if you took it over there, they couldn't do anything with it. They just absolutely threw their hands up and says, hey, we have no authority whatsoever to take anybody off. it doesn't matter, you know, and this body, or the previous body fixed it, and so I don't know that it's broke. Thank you.
Ms. Fulbright?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't know the answer to this, but it is a real problem of people being deceased and still on the rolls, because when we have our annual community meeting and they send out the notification to our tribal members, and people call you up on the telephone and they're really angry and say, my dad has been dead for 5 years, whatever. Well, you want to say back to them, well, sir, you should have taken the death certificate over there and had them removed from the rolls. The family doesn't follow through with it, but when they get a letter, they get upset about it. And I can go through, like Councilor Thornton said, and look at our registration list and tell you this guy has been dead for years. But how do we make the families be proactive? I don't know the answer to it. I mean, we've got, so in one sense, the membership is not accurate because there are so many deceased people on there, but of course they are dead and they cannot vote, so. Unless they're in Adair County. But it really is a problem, but registration, they're very careful, and I appreciate that, because you can't just call them up and say, my aunt so-and-so died, and take them off. You've got to go over there and send them some notification, legal death certificate, before they will act on it, and that's good. But I don't know how to get folks to report a death in the family to registration. They've got so many things on their mind, I guess they don't consider it really important at that time, although it is. Thank you. Comment.
Ms. Fishing-Hawk?
I just wanted to comment, I don't think our rolls are that much more messed up than the state one. And they're not spending hours. That's all.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor of this, which one was it? 24, section 20, item 24, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Aye. Roll call. Yes, since you support the amendment.
David Thornton,
No.
Kara Callan Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
No.
Bodie Fishing-Hawk,
No.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
China Gloria Jordan,
No.
Curtis Snell,
No.
Chris Stokes.
No.
We have 5 yes and 12 no.
5 yes, 12 no, motion fails. Okay, next item is 34B, verification. Yes, Ms.
So I
Callan.
guess Rogers County is kind of probably extra sensitive to this issue, so we're asking that at least 4 of the following documents be provided to verify residence.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved into discussion. Mr. Dr. Cobb?
This is a question for the attorneys in the room. Number 6, a bona fide document evidencing such verification. Is that a little ambiguous, or is that just me?
If I may,
Yes, please.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
That is meant to be a catch-all item that would allow the election commission to determine any other evidence that they deemed appropriate that would help them in determining the bona fide residence of the candidate. So it was meant to be expanded.
Ms. Fishing-Hawk? Did you have your hand up? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was Ms. Gloria Jordan.
What did it formally read? Defer to, or yield my time. Was it one or more? My problem is this. As a married person, I was just going down through this list, and utility bills are not in my name, and neither is homestead exemption in my name. So as a married person, the only thing I have is a driver's license, voter registration, and income tax return, and the only fourth way I meet it is that catch-all Todd was talking about, which I do not like. So I would offer a friendly amendment that we drop that to no more than 3.
I'll accept that. Who's the second?
I like 4 better, but I could get by with 300.
Still better than what we got.
Exactly.
So you accept that, Mr. Crichton? Hello? Mr. Crichton?
Ma'am.
Do you accept that?
Yes, ma'am, I said I did.
Hallelujah.
Then I got sidetracked.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
Yeah, unlike Tina, I'm sitting here looking at it, and my driver's license says that I live in Tahlequah. My utility bill, according to which one I use, will show where I live, but then my tax return, my state voter, they all say I live at Baker Furniture. I mean, every address I have is at my place of business. And obviously before an election, I can go change my driver's license, and I can refile or have my taxes done at a different address than they've been for the last 40 years. But either you live someplace or you don't, folks. And I don't know that you got to prove it 3 or 4 different ways. I think, and I'm not worried about me because I'll be right. But how about the folks that just decide they're going to run, and they look, oh well, I moved last year, and my driver's license says I still live at the old address, and sold my house, so I didn't file homestead exemption this year. The insurance and all these other things come to my place of business, and all of a sudden they can't prove that they live where they live. And I just don't know that you and maybe some exception, because I'm not sure that my cabin doesn't have my wife's name because she's the one that went down and put up the deposit. So I'm just saying, you're making this a little restrictive, and if you're not careful, people are not going to be able to prove without going to court where they live. And I don't know why you need to have 3 or 4 methods of proving where you live. Either you do or you don't. Anyway, I won't be supporting this.
Ms. Fishinghall?
When I was talking to a lot of our constituents, I'm going to be honest, don't have a driver's license. And a lot of them really don't have income tax returns. And they don't own their home. And a lot of them don't vote in the state election. I was going to see if anybody might, from the Martha or somebody, come up and tell us how many they think they should have.
Sure. Mr. Johnson or Ms. Calico?
I don't know why, what it was last time. I don't know how it read.
Yeah.
You got a microphone.
Look at
I don't know how it read the last time. I just have the current revised version in front of me. But, again, if it isn't broke, what are we trying to fix? What was the requirements for the last election as far as residency is concerned? And,
one of the 4, I think, is what it says.
Madam Speaker, maybe is this for voting for my people, or is this for candidate verification?
Running for
And then there's the big may vote in the middle of all this. I've learned the difference between may and shall. So if we pass it, I guess it don't mean anything really anyway, does it? Call us.
You ask my opinion? I think it should be the Election Commission's responsibility. It's an administrative function, in my opinion.
Well, I think it worked properly before, or it worked before, and to change it, I think the commission, would ask how come we're wanting to change it.
Mr. Hoskins?
I think it should be in the statute, so I respectfully disagree with the speaker, but I also think I believe that in our red line section, we see how it was last time. I think this is how it was. One or more of the following gives the commission both specific direction and then some discretion with respect to number 6, a bona fide document. I mean, I can imagine perhaps somebody produces some sort of a health insurance record that demonstrates they lived at an address, because if they're required to have more than one. They were only required to have one, though. And unless we make some evidence that there was some problem with this last time, then I don't know that I'd support changing it, but I'd be open to hear about incidents where there was a problem last time. I was not aware there was a problem. Thank you.
Motion table. Have a motion table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. Yes, is you support motion to table.
Is this just till like next month, so all these, because we're running out of time, or is that what this is about? Okay.
Motion to table this item, right, not the whole thing. Yes, is you support motion to table.
Krista?
No.
Dave Thornton?
Yes.
Kara Callan Watts? No. Bill England?
No.
Bill John Baker?
No.
Jack Baker?
No.
Harley Buzzard?
No.
Julia Coates? No. Bradley Cobb?
No.
Joe Crittenden?
No.
Jody Fishinghawk?
Yes.
Meredith Rayleigh?
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright? No. Don Garvin?
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.?
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan?
Yes.
Curtis Snell?
No.
Five yes and 12 no.
5 yes and 12 no.
Speaker, point of just on information. Has this motion been amended down from 4 to 3 forms of identification?
Yes.
It has been amended,
Yes,
so that'll be the
Mr.
question
And I think
for us.
second, accepted
I
that
did,
amendment.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. We have 2 people that have not discussed, expressed their opinion yet. Mr. Crittenden?
I really think that, I've heard people say they didn't have so many of these and so many of whatevers. I think I've got all 6. And I think this was done to maybe prevent a situation where, if you live in a certain area, pretty good chance people know it. And if you don't, it's a pretty good chance people know that too. So I think someone mentioned erring a while ago, or making an error. I'd rather err on having plenty of documentation as I had to, like the last time. That's all I've got.
Okay, Ms. Callen-Watts?
I would say the broad group of my constituency does believe there was error two elections ago. If anybody remembers the infamous RV incident, it was technically thrown out for other reasons. But somebody ran for office that wasn't living in our district, but simply placed an RV in the area. That is unacceptable. We should have a greater burden of proof to show that we are amongst our constituents. That is what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Any questions been called? All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
No. Those opposed, would you mind raising your hand so she can get them? Okay, 3. Okay, motion carries. Item 36B4. Ms. Callen, was that yours also?
Yes, and it's to add or funded by the Cherokee Nation. So if the majority of funds are also coming from the Cherokee Nation, that an employee of that entity could also be under the same obligations as one owned 51%.
The motion is
to approve that with the additional language.
Friendly amendment.
The second with the friendly amendment.
Where it reads that he or she is not an employee, could we add board member or commission member?
Yes, because we appoint those. That would be excellent.
And we pay them.
Thank you. Yes.
So,
Ms. Gloria Jordan, she is not an employee on that first line there?
where it says at the time of filing that he or she is not an employee, comma, board member, comma, commission member.
Okay. And
I do accept.
you accept
Yes,
it?
thank you. That was excellent.
Who seconded that?
Madam Chairman, may I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
I would interject the word of voting board member or member of a commission, because there are counselors who are ex officio board members of certain boards, and I would not want that to be misconstrued as a reason to disqualify them as a candidate.
I would offer that as a friendly amendment.
I accept.
Voting. All right. Is everyone clear? It's voting member or rather than just board member. Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Baker.
So this would, as long as the Cherokee Heritage Center is funded at least half by the Cherokee Nation, that would preclude any council member being on the board. That's just a statement. Thank you.
Question?
Sure.
I thought on all the boards we were just advisory members. Is there some boards that tribal council serves on that they vote on?
Mr. Baker.
Yes, ma'am. Well, it's the Cherokee Heritage Center is not a Cherokee Nation organization. It's a nonprofit, but it's a nonprofit that's more than 50% funded at this time by the Cherokee Nation.
But if you just change their category to an advisory member rather than a voting member, that takes care of it. And I thought there was a court case that we could not be voting members of any board.
But it's, what I'm saying is this is not a Cherokee Nation board. This is an independent 501c3 board. But it's the funding that brings it in.
Madam Chairman, may I say something?
Yes. Yes.
The court case that Ms. Jordan is referring to is Cantrell versus Cherokee Nation, and it held that counselors could not be board members of Cherokee Nation governmental entities or corporation entities. The difference between that and the Cherokee Nation Historical Society is just as Mr. Baker stated. It is a state-organized 501c3, and it has that status for since its inception. The reason why it would, I guess, come in play in this instance is that, as he has correctly stated, that it is now more than 50% funded by the Cherokee Nation. So if the amendment passes, we may have to revisit that issue of whether it is considered a Cherokee Nation entity. But at this point, it is not considered a Cherokee Nation entity that would fall under the purview of Cantrell, in my opinion.
Go Jordan. Okay. Any further discussion?
I'm a little confused because I don't think we solved the problem, because my understanding is that if we vote yes on this, he's on a board that he votes on a board that is 51% funded by the Cherokee Nation.
Not owned, but funded.
Funded by the Cherokee Nation.
You just eliminated Jack.
In here.
Mr. Baker?
Madam Chairman, I wonder if they would consider a friendly amendment to exclude the Cherokee Nation Heritage Center, knowing the special funding source that it is.
Ms. Calmar?
Thank you. And I understand the importance of council members sitting on the Heritage Center board, but I think we also need to continue with something like whatever this language is. So even if it is approved today, it's not voted on in full council yet or sent to the chief. And if we can go ahead and wrap up and keep this moving, then maybe we have something to amend on the floor at full council. It's just this one last thing left. But because there's such a significant amount of funding, to use the Heritage Center as an example, does go to the Heritage Center, I would hate for it to be used as a political football in any way, so we do need to look at that closer. I don't know how you feel as the second, but does that about reflect it, or?
Very seldom, I've said this before, that Kara and I see eye to eye. But on this one, I think we are consistent. I think there's a way that we could probably do something before we get to council meeting, or we could change those council members that are serving on the Heritage Board to advisory members. I do have a problem when we fund a entity for at least half of its money. I agree with Kara that it could become a political football, so I would decline, and I think what I'm hearing from Kara, she's declining to accept that friendly amendment, and I would decline to do so too.
So as written, we're voting on as written.
With the friendly amendment.
With except for the voting board member. Okay, all lines clear. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call. Yes, as you approve the amendment. I mean the item as written and amended.
Bradley Cobb,
Yes.
Joe Crittenden, Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Ryder Crowley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Tina Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
Chris Stowe,
No.
David Thornton, Kara Callan Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Julia Pettis.
Yes.
We have 10 yes, 6 no, and 1 not in the room.
10 yes and 6 no. Motion carried. Okay, Jack, we're out of there. Okay, and we need to make this quick. We only have 20 minutes, so we have several items to go.
So the next one is just a type of employment and employer's name, which would be more consistent with other political reporting on 43E. So it would be the type of employment, like when I make a political contribution, I'm an elected official, and I work for Cherokee Nation Tribal Council is where it's the legislative branch. So right now we don't report that. And I think that becomes more important as our government becomes more sophisticated.
Have a second?
So make a motion.
Second, discussion, Dr. Cobb?
I have a question. Somebody may have a little more knowledge than I do about state and federal elections. I do know that as an optometrist, when I write a check, I cannot write a corporate check. So, do you want to have any discussion on that, or do we have anything in place? Is there something we want to... I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We already preclude corporations.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were on the same page on that, if that's something we want to make sure we were on the same page. That's all I have to say.
Any comments? Other comments or questions, Mr. Baker?
Well, and of course that would be Kara's choice to write down that she worked for the Tribal Council of the Cherokee Nation. I could put furniture store owner or farmer or, any number of things. It's up to the individual. We can't tell them what their occupation is. And I'm assuming that I'm not giving any donation that this council has given me to give. So most times I do, I put that it comes from the farm or some other deal. But like I say, that's something for the person that's making the donation to decide, whether they're making it as a golf pro or as a president of a bank. Whatever. That's up to them.
Mr. Hoskin?
Thank you. Just a brief question for any of the election commissioners in the room. Would knowledge of the donor's employer's name assist you in investigating allegations of improper financial donations to candidates.
Ask the question again.
We're asking for the employer's name to be included on a contribution. I'm trying to think of the useful purpose for that. I know the state of Oklahoma doesn't, the federal government doesn't. Would that information assist you in investigating an allegation of an illegal donation?
My opinion that it would.
Thank you.
Dr. Cobb.
Councilor England had brought this up before. I do know at some of our campaign events, some of the people put up a coffee can and there was money in it, and we declared it, but what happens with that? I mean, I'd yield to Councilor Hoskins if you had a comment on that.
Well, I think we have a former speaker of the Oklahoma House of Representatives in the audience who may have some experience with this, but I don't want to burden him with responding. But I do think that there's a provision in the state law that if you get a collection of contributions in mass, that the way to report that is to report those in attendance and the number of attendees, and that you won't run afoul of the law if you don't capture everyone's place of employment. We don't have such a provision in here, and I don't know if at the state level it's in the statute and the regs or just how it's been done.
Well, Madam Chairman, if I may interject.
Yes, please, Mr. Embry.
Okay. We allow anonymous donations within the election law right now. As correctly stated, it's known as fishbowl money or coffee can money. This provision or this amendment would not affect that provision. This is allowed on what is being made as on non-anonymous contributions. So it would not, whatever you vote here on the amendment 43E will not affect the anonymous donation portion of the election law.
That answers my question.
Any other questions, comments?
No more question.
Question's been called. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Did you get that, Chris? Okay, last item is 44C, prohibition against intimidation.
It's just to add knowingly solicit.
So knowingly?
Yeah, because otherwise I don't know how you would create a mechanism. I mean, you could solicit and not knowingly do it, so what, are you going to be prosecuted even though you didn't know you were doing it? So I thought that legally that needed word to be in there, so I moved to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Lori Jordan?
This may need to be directed to Todd, but do we have a definition of the word knowingly?
Todd?
No, we didn't. Knowingly is not defined in the election law itself. You would have to just to take its legal meaning in your normal course of the use of the word. What this does would change this to a crime of criminal general intent to one of specific intent. That in the lawyers there will kind of know what the delineation of those two are. Basically, with the word knowing is that you have that's another element of the crime that a prosecutor would need to choose to prove in order to get a conviction under the statute. It would make it into a specific intent crime.
That answer your question?
Not really. Todd, right now, as I understand it, it's just a civil suit. But what you're saying is by placing this word here, it becomes a criminal action. Is that right?
Well, it would come to the and I misspoke. It's another element that the election commission would have to determine whether there was a violation under this act and they could enforce any penalties. Normally, when you interject the word knowingly in a court of law, it's like I said, it calls for a specific intent. So I should have used the word election commission would have to find that this solicitation was done so purposely and knowingly.
Might I continue? What's the position of the Election Commission regarding this change?
I don't have an issue with it. I think I can speak for the rest of the commission.
So you're comfortable that you could enforce this?
I believe so, yes.
That's all I have.
Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now you want to bring forward the whole act?
Yes, I would like to move to approve with all the amendments.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. How long has it been? We've been
By acclamation.
Okay. Next order.
Madam Chairman, I didn't hear, did you state that was by acclamation?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great.
Okay, item 2 is a resolution confirming the nomination of Bill Grass as a member of the Board of Managers of Cherokee Medical Services, LLC.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to table 2 through 5, and I would like to give an explanation if that would be possible.
Sure.
I visited with David Stewart prior to this meeting, and there is some legislation coming from, my understanding, coming from their area that may alleviate some of these positions having to be reconfirmed.
Yes.
And I would like to ask that it be tabled for 1 month. Is Mr. Stewart here?
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think some things are coming up that would make this process much more efficient and be a total package that would be a little more clear to the council that would be coming up, I think, in the next session.
So we're tabling items 2 through 5?
Second.
Yes. Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Under new business is an act amending statute requirements for appointment of members of boards and commissions. Ms. Flora Jordan?
I would put that in a form of a motion that we approve that.
Moved in second. Now discussion. Yes.
Should I start off?
Sure.
This act comes as a result of all of the nominations and renominations that we've been having. It basically states 2 things: that those nominations would need to be Cherokee, and that those serving on boards would only serve on 1 board. I would like to add a friendly amendment to that serving on 1 board, that they would not be prohibited from serving on boards that are non-paying. So we could have dual holders of commissions or a board if one position was non-paying and 1 position was paying. And I don't know who did the second. Would you accept that? So basically the requirement would be that the board members would be Cherokee, and I have a list of all the boards, and we actually, surprisingly enough, I know this became a real issue last month, but surprisingly enough, there is only just a few boards that have non-Cherokees on them. And of course, since this is not retroactive, those individuals serving on those boards would be able to continue their service until the end of their term, and then they would be replaced by a Cherokee member. I also have some information regarding payments of those boards, and many of these boards pay good money, very decent money. And I'm a firm believer that we were all put here in these positions to make sure that those dollars, which are dollars mostly coming out of gen funds, that those dollars go to the Cherokee pocket. And so that was why I asked Todd to write this legislation and why I'm sponsoring it. I think that we just need to get back to the basics if we're here for the Cherokee people. And sometimes, or somewhere along the way, in a few instances, we have forgotten that.
Okay, Ms. Laura Jordan, so restate your motion.
My motion, and the act is in here, it's number 1, does two things. Each board member that is nominated would need to be a Cherokee for a Cherokee board. Novel idea. We have 285,000 members, and we're asking that from those 285,000 members, we fill approximately 20 boards with Cherokee people. The second would be that let's only put you on one board that pays. There are a few non-paying
Okay,
positions.
so your motion is to do what? They must be Cherokee, but they can serve on 2 boards if one is non-paid.
Right, that's
Okay.
correct.
Everyone clear? Yes, Dr. Cobb? Yeah.
I'm not in favor of this, and I'll tell you why. As Councilor Jordan stated herself, we have a few instances where we have non-Cherokee citizens in positions on boards. If it was the other way around, I may feel differently about this. And she made a good point, but it's not the other way around. We have a few instances. And one of the things that we have always done very well historically as a people is adapt. And we adapt to our surrounding situation, and we adapt. We take what's good and from other cultures. We take what's good from other situations and adapt into our own culture. My concern here is that if C&B buys a company and we need a nuclear physicist, and we do not have a Cherokee citizen that's a nuclear physicist, what are we supposed to do? Just not have one? And that may be an extreme example. Now, I will be the first one to say that if we have someone, I've heard comments made that with 300,000 citizens, we have somebody that can do this job. Well, we may or we may not. And as a business owner, I'm not in favor of limiting your options from a business standpoint if you do not have anybody qualified to go into that position. Now, I will agree, after a certain amount of time, if you don't have somebody, if someone's available or you're not grooming somebody for a position, I think that's something that needs to be looked at if they're a Cherokee citizen. But in my opinion, this limits your ability to do business. And again, if it was the other way around and most of our boards were comprised of non-Cherokee citizens, I would be a little concerned, but it's not the case. Thank you.
Ms. Fishing Hawk?
My family owns various businesses, and we just now got through building me a house, and believe it or not, everybody there was Cherokee that worked on it that we give money to. I made a point of hiring Cherokees, so I, politely disagree. And the only thing I think about adaptation, to be honest, is it's too close to assimilation, and I don't like that. We've had a history of assimilation.
Mr. Hoskin?
Well, I think it boils down to this. We're talking about putting people in positions of public trust to essentially oversee what is the day-to-day operations of various Cherokee Nation activities. I don't think it's too much to ask that all of those people who are essentially overseers in positions of public trust be Cherokee citizens. If we're talking about some extreme amount of technical expertise that needs to be brought to bear to a particular task within that business, maybe you don't find a Cherokee, but we really have to take a step back. We're talking, as I see it, about board members, okay, that don't necessarily need that level of expertise. They need to be responsible people that can be in positions of public trust, and I think, given that that's what we're talking about, we ought to be able to fill them with 100% citizens. Thank you.
Did you want to respond to him, or?
I'm not, but I don't have a question or a comment. I just wanted to.
Mr. Badger?
Okay.
My comment is, I support having an all-Cherokee board, because if you're on a board and you need an expertise, you can always contact the personnel for consultation. That's not a problem. The other thing I'm not so much in favor of is one board for the whole group. Because if you look at the Cherokee Nation, we're busted up into several entities. And I think if you've got a board sitting over at C&I, they're focused on manufacturing, electronics, and whatever. I've got a board over at Cherokee Nation Enterprises, they're focused on entertainment. So I don't know, they'd have to prove to me that they can get a fair amount of people on those boards to make the right decisions for the whole Cherokees and not one specific board. So I'm not going to vote for the amendment, for the resolution because of that. And I do support being an all-Cherokee board, but I don't really support being one board over everything. Because I think you lose the focus from each group. You lose the focus from C&I, you lose the focus from Cherokee Nation Enterprises, and also from the other boards that's there. Those people that go to these boards are focused on that particular thing, but C&I is focused on electronics, technology, construction, those things there. Cherokee Nation Enterprises is focused on entertainment. So, I don't know, it'll have to be shown to me that that can be worked out a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Councilor Jordan mentioned a list of boards and commissions and whether they're Cherokee or not, and I thought I would just make that list available to everyone as well that she had requested of us.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Real briefly, we got 2
Okay.
minutes.
Here's what I would like to do, because I think that there's other information forthcoming, and I promised Mr. Stewart that what I would do this month is we would discuss it, and then I would do a motion to table so that we can look at his other legislation that will be here next month.
Okay, so your motion is to table. Second. Moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
1 aye. Okay. Item 2 is the confirmation of Larry Adair as to the Cherokee Nation Gaming Commission.
Move for approval.
Second. Any discussion? Mr. Adair, did you have a comment before we vote?
I'd be honored to serve, ma'am.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 3 is a resolution affirming the nomination of Brad Carson. Ms. Knight.
Madam Speaker, I would respectfully request that we withdraw at this time. It's a bit presumptive, and we'll be resubmitting at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is the selection of the...
Madam Secretary, or Madam Chairperson, can we, I make a motion that we adjourn at this time and take the rest of the agenda for next month.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Do we have a discussion? Ms. Calwatt.
Yeah, I believe item 6 at least has a timeliness to it that we need to address before we adjourn. My
I
apologies.
make a motion that we would pass number 6. That is correct. That needs to be passed.
Okay, so you're tabling just 2 items?
Yeah, until next time.
Okay, all in favor? She's tabling, her motion is to table items 4 and 5, correct?
And pass
All in
six.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So we're down to item 6. Second. Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Second.
Oh, wait, so we have one announcement.
We've got a fella here, Randy Ketcher, and he is accepting donations for the Greasy School to have a trunk and treat. Being we don't have community assistance and such, I certainly hope that council will dig deep in their pockets to help these kids that have lost their school to have a trick or treat. You should be outside when we adjourn.
Is there a way that we can do this?
Give it scale.
That we can contribute?
I don't know the system.
No, I mean, what's his procedure there?
I just gave him a $20 bill.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Don't have to ask for that.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Good job.
5 minutes to
We are
get
adjourned. 5 minutes.